What's going on, Marvel enthusiasts? RBG here, bringing you more coverage on Marvel's Avengers. I've been reviewing these tie-in comics for you guys to try to put certain pieces together of what might unfold in the game's story, and the reception has been somewhat warm, which is understandable because outside of these comics there hasn't been much to talk about. I didn't get to mention this in my last update since the video was made a day before the news came out, but Marvel's Avengers release date has now been pushed back to September 4th, which is 4 months later than they originally intended to have it out. And I honestly can say I'm not surprised, like I just knew it wasn't going to be polished upon arrival. There were just so many noticeable issues just by looking at some of the trailers, like the bad frame rate. This has been a glaring blemish since the big A-Day mission where we noticed the bad frame drops during some of the more chaotic moments. Other noticeable scenes would have to be when we saw Tony walking in the helicarrier, and this other moment where Iron Man is shooting his laser at one of AIM's Dreadbots. I don't mind that the highest this game is going to run is at 30 FPS because it gives a more cinematic look, especially considering the fact that Marvel's Spider-Man ran at the same frame rate. But when the visuals in this game drop to 14 frames during the big action sequences, you just know the devs have a lot of work to do to make sure the game runs smoothly upon arrival. Something else I think they might be working on are the character designs, because that's obviously been their Achilles heel and the biggest gripe about the game. So I wouldn't be surprised if developers are spending some of that time to tweak the looks for the Avengers. Like we've already seen them make minor adjustments to characters like Thor and Black Widow, and this isn't something new to Marvel games. It's easy to forget that Marvel Spider-Man underwent a similar instance. Like that serious noir look you got in the first teaser trailer got changed to a more richer color palette, and if you notice, the texture patterns on Spidey's suit was somewhat changed, but the overall aesthetic remained the same. I'm pretty sure you've all heard me say that these designs translate way better in the comics than they do in the actual game, so I think Crystal Dynamics should ditch their more realistic take on the characters and sort of beef them up for a more heroic look. I'm just saying. But moving on, I want to dive into the latest issue of the Marvel's Avengers comic. With the release of Avengers Iron Man in December and Thor in January, writer Jim Zub started to introduce us to this Avengers world. He did a pretty excellent job at giving us a feel for the characters while peppering in some epic action sequences. In this new issue starring the Hulk, it includes more character development than the previous 2 issues, and in my personal opinion, it has the best artwork with illustrations being done by Ariel Olivetti instead of Paco Diaz and Robert Gill. The story kicks off at the SHIELD lab. The Hulk is rampaging in one of the containment rooms after being deliberately agitated. Monica, one of the scientists who specializes in genetics, explains that she's trying to understand the gamma radiation that fuels the Hulk's transformation. After a chaotic observation, she plays the Hulk some classic music and enshrouds his room in numbing mist. When he reverts back to his normal form, she lets Bruce out and tells him that she was able to obtain a lot of data. But Bruce is more so concerned that she could get hurt. Lately, he's been losing more and more control and fears that the Jade Giant could harm everyone that's dear to him, including Monica. Him and Monica have gotten into a serious relationship, and though he knows this is the last thing he should be doing, he enjoys not being ostracized because of his condition. He tells Monica that she should tone it down on her experiments with the Hulk, but she reassures him that the Hulk would never harm her due to the bond they've developed. She explains that it can all be remedied if they find a way to edit his gamma mutated cells, and Bruce becomes abrasive and tells her that that's pretty much pointless. No one can tame the Hulk, and continuing these tests will only result in more destruction. The two have a lengthy argument until Bruce leaves the room to refrain from transforming from anger. As he's leaving, he bumps into George Tarleton, a SHIELD scientist who's always trying to one-up Bruce when it comes to smarts and is jealous of his relationship with Monica. George reminds Bruce of his idea to magnify energy, and Bruce shoots down the idea and tells him that it's too dangerous. And at this point, Bruce is just downright frustrated because everyone wants an instant answer, and if there's one thing that mentality has taught him, it's when you rush things, you ultimately end up getting the Hulk to smash them. So he tells George that they'll have to finish their convo another time. But that's something George isn't trying to hear. So he makes the decision of running his experiment by himself, which leads to disaster. The magnifier explodes, releasing energy that hits 2 guards, causing them to merge into one electrically charged giant. The monster begins rampaging through the lab until it eventually comes in contact with Bruce and Monica. It gets a good shot at Bruce, knocking him back, but thankfully Monica was able to trap him in a container, at least for a split second. Unfortunately, that's not enough to keep the electric behemoth at bay. It breaks out, grabs Bruce's head, and sends a huge jolt of energy through his body. And in typical fashion, Bruce transforms into the Hulk and instantly engages the monster in an epic fisticuff. The battle found its way over to a lake, and the Hulk was able to stop the monster by spearing it into the water. After waking up in the hospital, he sees Tony sitting at his side. The two talk about the collateral damage the Hulk and the monster causes, with Bruce feeling guilty and Tony being the more optimistic one. He asks Bruce if he remembers anything from the battle with the electrical giant, and Bruce tells him that he can only remember minor moments. The gaps seem to be getting worse, and he continues to lose control of his green alter ego. Bruce fears that he may not even be able to revert back the next time he transforms. But Tony tells him not to worry and leaves as Monica walks into the room. As he exits the SHIELD facility, he runs into our good old boy George Tarleton, and they begin talking about what happened with the big electrical creature. Tony mentions that Nick Fury is trying to figure out where it came from, but all the footage is fried from the big explosion, and George plays it off acting like he doesn't know who or what caused the big incident. The story ends with the two talking about George's quote-unquote models for a safe form of energy. Now, I just gotta say that this issue of the comics features a ton of meaty clues that we'll most likely see in the game. Bruce Banner is obviously gonna be struggling with his control over the Hulk. Like, this is gonna be a major part of his character arc, and I'm so looking forward to it. Another thing that became an instant eyebrow raiser was his Monica character and her relationship to Bruce. She seems to be very interested in learning how to control the Hulk as opposed to killing him completely. And considering the fact that this relationship was still going when the issue ended, I think it'll continue to play out in the game story. And the biggest reason why this is an eyebrow raiser is the fact that this Monica character could be a potential villain who's already been established in Marvel lore. While this issue of Marvel's Avengers doesn't say her full name, I'm pretty sure that this character is the evil biochemist Monica Rappaccini. In the comics, she worked with Bruce Banner and the two developed a romantic relationship, just like Bruce does with this Monica character. Except Monica Rappaccini only got close to Bruce to steal as many secrets from him and used this knowledge to win a Nobel Prize for her works in antitoxins. I have a nagging suspicion that Marvel's Avengers Monica is indeed the same character that screwed Bruce over, and she's most likely going to do the same to him in the game or one of the future issues from the comics, because both Monicas have similar stories and skill sets, and the Monica from the classic Marvel comics is a head scientist over the radical scientific group known as AIM, and we know that this group is going to be the central antagonist in the game. So what's not to say that Monica is playing with Bruce's heart to get certain details about the way gamma energy works for an evil scheme she has cooked up. At first, it seemed like Tony Stark was going to be the main Avengers member responsible for the big A-Day incident, since information to his tech was leaked and we saw bad guys using it. But it looks like he may not be the only member allowing important info to land in the wrong hands. Monica could do just like she did in the comics and use that information from Bruce to gain her status, which she could then use to become the scientist supreme of AIM. I wouldn't be surprised if her test with the Hulk ends up creating his arch nemesis Abomination, since he's seen in the first trailer. I'm not saying that this is the case, but it's something to take into account here. Something else that'll most likely be a thing in Marvel's Avengers is MODOK. We've been mentioning him a lot, especially since he's considered AIM's greatest creation, but there wasn't enough evidence to corroborate our theory that he existed in Marvel's Avengers. But after 2 comic book tie-in issues, we finally have our confirmation in the form of our boy George Tarleton, who just so happens to be MODOK's original human form. Just like the one we see in this issue, George was a skilled technician who joined AIM. To further their studies on a cosmic cube, the evil organization used George as a guinea pig to create a mental organism designed only for computing. But what they got was a mental organism designed only for killing in the form of MODOK. Now, I'm thinking that George will ultimately join AIM in the game, since he doesn't seem to be getting the respect he desires from S.H.I.E.L.D. and Bruce. The way I think he'll get in good with them is his studies in energy. The story writer for this particular comic seems to be hinting at the energy crisis the game world is dealing with. We see the Avengers protecting a new energy source in the form of a Terrigen reactor. And in this latest issue, George mentions that the world is hurtling towards an energy crisis. So I'm thinking that this brief mentioning of an energy crisis may be substantial to AIM eventually taking over San Francisco after the big A-Day event and eventually taking over everything. I also have a suspicion that George's talk with Tony led to them finding the Terrigen crystal used to power the Chimera helicarrier, among other things. This will probably explain how Taskmaster and his goons knew that the crystal could cause a massive explosion at A-Day. These are just theories, but if they ultimately end up happening in the game, I'll be proud to say I called it. But as I always say, we'll just have to wait and see when the game is officially released to the world. It's a shame that we have to wait another 7 months when we originally had 3 more months to go, but as I said earlier, I would rather this title be completely polished upon arrival, so yeah. But I'm gonna bring this video to a close and leave it to you guys. What do you think about this issue of the tie-in comic? Did you like it? Do you think these 2 particular scientists will return as potential villains in the game? Let me know down in the comment section below. As always, I ask you like or dislike the video. It doesn't have to be a thumbs up, it can be a thumbs down. Any feedback is good feedback and will only help me improve on future videos. But if you really enjoyed this video, it would help me tremendously if you shared it with all your friends and followers on social media. Sharing really makes a difference. But once again, this is your boy RBG signing out on another video. I'll catch you guys later. Peace out.
part of the war.